January 2025 rune reading preview. The full reading can be found on my substack. The rune that I drew for the month of January is really a very beautiful rune to draw, especially in its upright position. It is one of the most life-affirming runes in the entire Futhark. It's very apropos considering it's the first month of the new year, the new cycle. Now, regardless whether we agree or disagree if the new year ought to start on January, our calendar that we all use happens to state that it is this month. And in spirit of that, it is indeed a very beautiful and synchronistic rune to have in this position. It's both defensive and protective. It is sometimes regarded as the rune of the Valkyries, who are sent by Odin to communicate with and help his chosen heroes on the path and the voyage towards the gate of Valhalla. It stands for the antlers of the stag, who uses those antlers to protect his herd from outside forces that may wish to prey upon it. When the antlers are pointed down, it can be symbolic of the death of the stag, which then leaves the herd without a protector. It's not uncommon for people to withdraw a little within themselves during this month, because you have had enough of the festivities, the social obligations, and the possible excesses of food and drink. After all that, we do tend to take a more withdrawn approach to life in general, which is very protective of our energies after having spent them perhaps a bit too liberally in the former month. The sober approach that can often herald in a time of self-reflection, reminiscent of people's New Year's resolutions. In these moments, we reflect on where we come from and where we want to go from here. Where our path ahead seems difficult, we often call upon our gods, our ancestral spirits, or our familiar spirits to lend us a helping hand, which is also how this rune is often used in magic, to function as a sort of antenna between our world and the world of the gods, to broaden our understanding and our capacity for communication with those gods. We humans have always had a need for spirituality. We have an innate need for ritual. If you do not believe this, just take a moment to think upon your morning routine. Do you always do the same thing in the same order? This is ritualistic behavior. And even if the purpose of it is not spiritual, it still functions as such, ritualistic. Do we feel a certain way, a bad way, when we relinquish that routine in favor of haste? It works the same for ritual for the purpose of spirituality. A vast majority of people feel a void in their life when they are cut off from all forms of spirituality, which is then filled with things that can never really compare, no matter how much we have of it, whether that is possessions, money, extracurricular substances, or intimate relationships. So it is a rune that tells you that it is a healthy thing for a human to indulge in your need for spirituality in your personal life, because it brings an extra dimension to our lives that cannot be replaced by anything else. We need to protect that personal line of communication we have with our gods and ancestors, because this itself strengthens one's life force and it nourishes the Hamingya. There are no downsides to allowing a healthy degree of spirituality in one's life. And what functions as healthy for a person, that is down to each individual for themselves to decide. No one knows you better than you know yourself.